This isn't just any regular weekend in Big 12 men's basketball. There is a trophy on the line. Hello and welcome to Inside the Big 12. I'm your host, Morgan Huber. This marks the 7th year of the Big 12 SEC Challenge, and the Big 12 holds the overall advantage with 4 wins. The SEC has won just once, and 1 year there was a tie. There are many signs that point to the Big 12 taking care of business once again. Take a look here at these net rankings. The Big 12 has 3 teams in the top 7. The SEC, they don't have a single team in the top 10. All 10 of your Big 12 teams will be in action with 10 great matchups here as you take a look at this schedule. There's also going to be 10 hours of Big 12 basketball. What more could you ask for to do with your Saturday? The first teams in action for the Big 12, West Virginia and Iowa State, those are 11 a.m. matchups. However, the day really begins at 10 a.m. in Lawrence, Kansas. College game day is coming to the Jayhawk City. Number 3 Kansas will face Tennessee in the challenge this year. The 3 p.m. matchup will feature the best 1-2 punch in the country, guard Devon Dotson and the big man Udoka Azubuike. When these two are healthy, they can't be stopped. And speaking of healthy, Dotson has returned to lineup and he's also returned to form. He missed 1 game a week and a half ago. However, on Saturday had 21 points against Texas. For Tennessee, it's a much different story. They're without All-SEC guard Lamonte Turner. He had a season-ending shoulder surgery in late December. He had been the leading assist man and second on the team in points. Without Turner and this atmosphere that we expect in Allen Fieldhouse, the Jayhawks, they'll be too much for Tennessee to handle. Speaking of great atmospheres, another one in the Big 12, Lubbock, Texas. Kentucky will have that challenge facing Texas Tech. Interestingly enough, both of these teams have found themselves in arguably the biggest storyline of college basketball this season. That's the revolving number 1 team in the country. Kentucky's been on both sides of it. To start this season, they knocked off number 1 Michigan State, and then a week later, they end up losing to Evansville. Texas Tech has been on the complete opposite side of it. The Red Raiders knocked off number 1 Louisville on December 10th. Since then, Texas Tech has 3 losses in conference play: Baylor, West Virginia, and TCU. All 3 are top 40 in scoring defense. The Wildcats, on the other hand, rank down the charts at 75th. The leading scorer in Lubbock, the Wildcats are going to have to slow down a freshman playmaking guard, Jamias Ramsey. He's averaging 15.5 points per game. Texas Tech head coach Chris Beard is still going to have to find a way to create offense through more than just one player because of the size challenges that Kentucky is going to present. Speaking of size, the Kentucky Bigs, they aren't bigger than this 7 p.m. matchup. Baylor at Florida. The new number 1 team in the country resides in Waco, Texas. Baylor has 5 top 25 wins and they're on a 15-game win streak. Part of the reason the Bears have been so good, 1, their depth, and 2, their suffocating defense. This year, they made a change, and they've been primarily playing man-to-man. Baylor's D has to find a way to slow down forward Kerry Blackshear. He leads the Gators in scoring. Florida, this season, they have a very impressive 22-point statement win over then the number 4 Auburn Tigers. We move from the Alabama Tigers to the Tigers of Louisiana. LSU will play Texas. That game is at 1 p.m. This is a huge opportunity for the Longhorns to bounce back. They haven't had the start that they've wanted in conference play. They're currently 2-4, and they're most recently coming off of a blowout loss, 38 points at West Virginia. They've got to find a way to slow down this high-powered LSU offense. Not only do the Tigers rank 2nd in the SEC in scoring, they also lead the conference in field goal percentage. On the call in Austin, Texas this weekend, we have the opportunity to be joined by ESPN analyst Fran Fraschilla. Fran, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy Big 12 men's basketball schedule to join us right now.
Very happy to be with you, Morgan. And of course, we got a big weekend. I'm excited about talking about the Big 12 SEC Challenge.
Well, we start with your game, LSU at Texas. The Longhorns, they're coming off of their worst loss of the Shaka Smart era. LSU, on the other hand, they're undefeated in SEC play. They're also top 10 in terms of offensive efficiency. What's going to be required of this Texas defense to pull this one off?
Well, defensively, I think they can guard most teams, but they're going to have a level of toughness in this game that we see intermittently throughout the season. LSU is they are ferocious on the offensive glass. So this is going to be a huge challenge for Shaka Smart's team. But in a weird way, This is an ideal team for Texas to play because West Virginia challenged their toughness. And in order for Texas to win this game at home, they're going to have to be the tougher team. And I think Shaka Smart's team's going to respond. I think it's a great opportunity for the Longhorns to get back on track and show that they have the capability of being a very good team. It's crazy, but they're 12-5. So they got a lot of basketball left in their season.
For the 7th time this season, there's a new #1 in college basketball. The Baylor Bears, they'll be going down to Florida. What's going to be the greatest challenge with the target on Baylor's back playing on the road?
Well, there's two major challenges. Number one, they're going to roll into the O'Connell Center in Gainesville with a giant bullseye on their back. This will be the first #1 team other than Kentucky to ever go to Florida and play. So you know that Mike White of the Florida Gators is going to have his team ready. It's a terrific challenge for Baylor, not only because of the bullseye, but also because they're playing an opponent that could really use a resume win. The Bears are 5-0 against the top 25, so we know how good they can be. Florida, on the other hand, a very young team looking for, as I said, a resume builder. So this is going to be a real challenge for Baylor, but they've done this before. They've got a lot of experience in that backcourt, and man, if they can win in Gainesville, that really solidifies their opportunity to eventually be a #1 seed in March.
Texas Tech is coming off of a loss. They lost to TCU earlier this week. The Kentucky Big Blue, they have some big forwards. They have 3 key contributors listed at 6'9" or taller. How is Texas Tech going to have to play to their strengths in order to combat this size issue that Kentucky will present?
It's a great question. I think that's the challenge for Chris Beard's team. It's interesting. They lost a game on the road to TCU, as you mentioned, a young TCU team that's up and coming. But they also beat Louisville, who was at that time #1, and on a neutral court. So at home, given what's at stake, United Supermarkets Arena is going to be rocking and rolling, 16,000. They're going to treat Kentucky, rightfully so, like Kansas is coming to town in a big conference game. Here's a little interesting nugget for you, Morgan. The leading scorer on each of these teams, Kentucky and Texas Tech, is a freshman. Tyrese Maxey for Kentucky, and of course, Jamias Ramsey from Texas Tech. They know each other well. 2 Dallas kids are going to hook up and really try to entertain us. I think the Red Raiders are going to get a really good resume win beating Kentucky at home.
Jamias Ramsey, he has been red hot all season, certainly passing the expectations of what we had coming into this one. And Fran, shifting gears, both of these conferences, they're about a third of the way into their conference play. Now, from a coaching perspective, from your perspective, when you have a one-off non-conference game like this, what are the pros? What can this do for a team at this point in the season?
Well, first of all, familiarity breeds contempt, and in conference play, every game really is critical. And teams battle. In many cases, they get tired of seeing the same conference foes year after year this time of year. And this Big 12 SEC Challenge is a great break from that. You're playing a good opponent with a chance to play for your conference and for your team, and most importantly, get a quality win at a conference that could really help you come March when Selection Sunday comes around.
All right, now prediction time. The Big 12 will win blank of the 10 games on Saturday.
Well, I'll tell you, Big 12's got some challenges because they got some tough matchups. I'm going to say 5-5. I really think that this is going to be really evenly played. There'll be some close games. A game to keep an eye out for postseason opportunities is Mississippi State at Oklahoma. Both of those teams are currently on the bubble, and that could be the game that decides whether we're 6-4 Big 12, 6-4 SEC. But I'm predicting 5-5. I think we're going to have an evenly split series this year.
There's only been 1 year that the Big 12 SEC Challenge has tied, so certainly curious to see what happens this year, Fran. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today and looking forward to watching your game, LSU at Texas, 1 p.m. on ESPN.
Thank you, Morgan, and always great being able to talk Big 12 hoops with you.
Our social spotlight this week has a unique tie to Fran Fraschilla and the entire ESPN Big Monday crew. This video has been shared all over social media. It has many talking and many crying. During the Coaches versus Cancer night at the Baylor game, Fraschilla's broadcast partner Holly Rowe was recognized in a heartfelt tribute. Fans, media members, coaches held up signs paying tribute to anyone they knew fighting cancer. Many people, including ESPN broadcasters calling the game, Bob Wischusen, and Fraschilla himself, had a sign with her name. Rowe has battled melanoma since 2015. It was a moment that brought tears to the eyes of so many watching. Holly Rowe is a fighter, an incredible storyteller, and a role model. She's an inspiration to me and so many others. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Inside the Big 12. Enjoy your weekend of the Big 12 SEC Challenge, and I'll see you right back here next week.